What's going on, guys? D&T in the 773 back here with another video. Today we're going to be recapping week 3, Bears against the Colts, and also we're going to be previewing week 4 going on to next week with the Bears taking on the Rams. My name's Tyler, and I'm joined alongside
Daniel. How's it going, everyone?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm a little bit happier than I was last week.
I agree.
Still have the jitters a little bit. I feel myself like a rookie QB watching each game. It's a bit tough. I'm getting used to the way this team plays, but I'm happy.
Yeah.
I could be worse, right, Tyler?
Yeah.
It could be worse. So
it could be worse as a Bears fan. Obviously, all you guys that didn't see the game in week 3, hopefully you guys all saw it, but we're progressing in the right direction as Bears. Obviously the big thing that we want to see, big progression is with Caleb Williams, being the number 1 overall pick. We want him to every week to continue to get better. We also want, different pieces on this team to get better. And, in week 3 against the Colts, even though it was not a Bears win, unfortunately, we did see progression with Caleb. The O-line looked a little bit better. I'm not going to say it looked great. I'm not going to say it looked good, but it did look better. The defense, once again, looks stellar as always, which is always a great thing, because if our defense wasn't stellar, then it would just,
it'd be a mud fight.
It would.
Oh, yeah.
We'd probably be blowing out 48 and we'd maybe get a touchdown or two. So, but yeah, dude, I'm doing great today, man. It's a little gloomy outside the last 2 days in the city of Chicago, but we did need the rain. It's kind of a little bit of in a drought right now.
Oh, yeah, I'm enjoying it. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Like my girlfriend says, it's napping weather. That's what it is.
It is indeed. Sit inside, watch TV weather.
Yeah.
I do enjoy that.
All right, bro,
week 3 was
right into it.
Right, week 3. There's a lot of hype going into week 3. We kind of wanted to see the offense flourish and bloom a little bit. Still kind of getting an edge on Shane Waldron, trying to see like what his views are on this offense and what players he kind of leans towards. We did see a lot of things that went well, things that we talked about last week that we wanted to see a change in. So I'm glad that they didn't listen to us, unless Eberflus is watching the show. Welcome, Matt. But
welcome, Eberflus.
There's a lot of changes that we saw that I'm glad that came out. But it was a little bit like every Bears game. There were good parts and bad parts. This week, though, like you mentioned, was definitely the emergence of Caleb Williams. Definitely seeing his pocket presence, his throwing arm, his running ability. So we saw a little bit of everything for him today, or at least on Sunday, and he played great. I was really excited about that. Definitely his best game so far in a Bears uniform, which was a good sight to see for once.
It's good. Obviously, it's week 3 right now. If week 1 was his best game and then he downgraded from there, week 2, week 3, we might have a little bit of questions. But, obviously we'll get into the stats with Caleb Williams, but he did, put on a show in Indy. He kind of did, even with the play calling that was kind of going down during the game, him and his arm and then maybe his mobility as well kind of kept us in this ball game. It was a close game. We did, toward the end, it did become a 2-score game, but we did, bring it back within a 1-score. We'll get into the stats in a little bit, but this is all we're asking of Caleb Williams. He did progress in week 3, we'll talk about his yardage. We'll talk about all the different stats in a little bit, but I agree with him.
He did well. And I was really proud of him because he definitely showed off a little bit after week 2 that he, the end of the game looked pretty bad. He looked kind of upset. Him and the receivers weren't connecting that well. There was a couple people like yelling on the sideline. So it was nice to just see this change of pace. So again, we did lose. The final score was 21-16. We did keep it again to a 1-score game, which is quite similar to most Bears games. The game script that we usually end up watching, even the last 3 seasons, has usually ended in a 1-score game. So we're just hoping that this year feels a little bit different, just because the offense isn't the main priority of the problem that happened, especially during week 3. So currently, after the Bears loss, we are currently 1-2, 4th place in the NFC North, back in last place. So it's not a big deal. I think the only the trouble I have with that is that knowing Minnesota is actually good.
Yeah, they're
Green Bay with Malik Willis
right
is actually good. So it's a struggle. It's definitely tough. It's definitely one of the harder competitive, like teams that we have to face later on this year. It's going to be Minnesota and Green Bay. So I'm a bit worried, just because knowing that they're, they still have it figured out, even with backups, even with, quarterbacks that they haven't had main priority in the offseason. So we'll see exactly how that goes. But everyone has a pretty different view of how this game went. And I think a good idea to just put it on a 1 word, right? Let's give it 1 word on what we thought of week 3. I'll go ahead and I'll start. So my first word, or my only word, I should say, is security. I think the big word I got out of week 3 is security. I think the O-line played a little bit better, but still the O-line is still the trouble. So I think it's just keeping Caleb safe. But another part of that is Caleb's learning ability. I think he's getting better. I feel security knowing that he was the player that we had to go for and that he's not just going to start off, 8 weeks straight having poor games. And this game overall wasn't the best game. Like, we've definitely seen better games as a Bears QB, but the best statistical game from a rookie QB in a Bears jersey. So that was absolutely amazing to see. Very happy about that progression. And security. Security is the word that I chose. But what about you, Tyler?
It's a good word, Dan. Security, talking about, basically, Caleb being, our quarterback under center and stuff like that. But my word's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to say, like, patience with this team. Obviously a lot of Bears fans thought we would potentially start the season 3-0, potentially, winning Sunday Night Football last week against the Texans, maybe win against the Colts last week, which obviously, if you guys know, those were 2 losses. So currently 1-2 right now. But I think this team, just be patient. Be patient. I know every Chicago fan, wants, we all want the Super Bowl. It depends on the sport. But with the Bulls, we kind of, we want the championship every year because we're thinking back to the 90s Bulls or whatever. But look, we need a little bit of patience. It's a brand new quarterback. The O-line, definitely improved a little bit from the last week. The defense, like we talked about, the defense was stellar once again, but I do think patience is key for Caleb. Everyone's like, just because of what happened yesterday with Washington beating the Bengals, which the Bengals are now 0-3, we clearly see the Bengals are not that good of a team to start the season. Who knows what they'll do in the next few weeks. But Washington, seeing what they did and, what Jaden Daniels did yesterday, how he only missed 2 passes or whatever. I was reading Twitter. Everyone's like, "Oh, did the Bears?" This was the one question I texted you this morning. Was like, everyone's saying, "Did the Bears make the wrong pick by picking Caleb Williams over Jane Daniels?" The answer there is no. Is because the Washington has an offensive-minded head coach. They have an offensive-minded offensive coordinator, and they know how to run the offense around Jane Daniels. With the Bears right now, it's just taking a little bit because they're trying to learn what Caleb could do, which they sure already know what Caleb can do, but with his arm, with his legs. But yeah, he's progressing and we're seeing it 3 games in, which is awesome. And yeah, so I think just be patient. It's only 3 games in, and that's what I gotta say about that. I just think that this team it's improving, especially from week 1. Remember week 1 we couldn't even get like a first down. We couldn't even get a touchdown. Obviously, we did get a touchdown in that game later on. But yeah, I think just a little bit of patience at being Bears fans.
I like that. I like the word patience because it is about being patient, right?
Yeah.
It's not that we wanted him to immediately succeed, because if he immediately succeeded, then that means there will be chances for an abrupt end or some sort of injury, something like that. So I'm glad that he's progressing through it. He's taking his slow steps, and I will give all the credit to Jaden Daniels. I think he played an excellent game. I think historically is one of the best rookie games of all time. So he played really well. I give a lot of credit to Cliff Kingsbury. Obviously, he's an offensive-minded coordinator there, and he also played at the college level. He coached at the college level, so he understands how these playbooks should look for a rookie quarterback. So I think he drew up some really good plays for Jane Daniels. I think Jane Daniels did have a good arm, but then I looked at the passing charts that were between Caleb and Jane Daniels. Now, Jane Daniels does not have a turnover yet, so that's the one thing I will say. That's the one difference that I think Caleb has between them, and that's mainly dealing with the O-line. There's a lot of changes there, a lot of differences, but I think, Jaden Daniels, his skill set matches Washington really well, and then Caleb matches our skill set as well. It's just going to take a little bit more time to see him progress. I think the idea of the pocket presence of him, protecting the ball, but we're definitely going to cover that later when it comes to the weaknesses and the strengths of the Chicago. But going into the game, so the game was pretty ugly. Let's just put it straight. Another one word for it. It was pretty ugly.
Kind of what John just said in the comment right here. I'll kind of throw it up on stream if it does work. Which is not working right now. I don't know why, but he did the Bears O-line is buns, and I agree. But it did, it kind of did, there it is right there. Finally, I think it's kind of funny ways that, but yeah, I agree. It is buns. But it did have improvement from week 2. It really did. We did move a few pieces around. Nate Davis was not in the lineup. We had Matt Pryor come in, but when I forgot who got hurt, I believe it was it was Braxton Jones got hurt in the middle of the game. Nate Davis came in. I remember texting you immediately. I was like, no, this is.
This is bad.
Yeah, but luckily Braxton Jones was over, what's it called? He was, it was only a few plays before, what's his name came back in, Braxton Jones came in instead of Nate Davis. So the Bears O-line is not the best. We Bears fans know this, but we have another comment here, and I'm not even going to put this one on stream. I don't think Jaden Daniels is better than Caleb Williams. I don't. I do think they're great quarterbacks. I think Jaden Daniels is a great quarterback, but I just don't think that Jaden Daniels is better. I do think I did make this prediction a few podcasts ago that I think that Jaden Daniels might be an injury-prone quarterback just because of his body type. Obviously after that first game with Washington being, he ran the ball a lot, and I believe Cliff Kingsbury afterwards was like, that was not the game's, our mindset for the game whatsoever. We don't want him to run as much. He did not run a lot, yesterday. He used his legs when he needed to and whatever, but I do think Jaden Daniels is a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I do think Caleb Williams is also a great quarterback. Who do I think is going to excel more with the offenses that they're provided? I believe Caleb Williams will excel more, but obviously I don't want to, jinx anything and say that. But Jaden Daniels is doing really well with the pieces he has. Terry McLaurin finally has a quarterback that's getting him the ball like where he needs to be. Did you see that stat yesterday where how many quarterbacks Terry McLaurin's been? It's like 11. But I do think that, Jaden Daniels is a great quarterback, but Caleb Williams, he's progressing. And that's all we're looking for as Bears fans, is that he's progressing in the right direction and not going to, a downward trend.
It depends how you look at it, right? You can either, from a Chicago perspective, you can look at it as, oh my gosh, we need the best quarterback. We want the best quarterback in the draft. Or we can look at it as, we just want a quarterback that can provide for this roster, right? I was very upset with the idea of, at the moment, I have to sit here and say Jaden Daniels probably has the Rookie of the Year votes, most people 3 weeks in. And that's totally fair. And to me, that doesn't make me upset at all. I think the idea is long-term, right? There can be two good existing quarterbacks from this draft. There could be 2 or 3 even. I think Caleb just has to provide for the Bears itself. Less on the idea of how is he fitting into the league. I'm more concerned on how is he going to fit into this team. Because I can't sit here and say Jaden Daniels would have been better, because could you imagine moving on from Justin Fields for Jaden Daniels? Like, that would cause uproar. So I like the passing upside is my idea. And I think Jaden Daniels has just as good of an arm, and he proved it last night. His quarterback rating was through the roof. So it's definitely an impressive stat line from Jaden Daniels, but still holding hope for Caleb. I'm not, losing hope at all. I'm not losing patience. I'm not scared about it. So I think there's just going to be a little bit more time, and hey, listen, if they both can play well, then I'm happy for both of them. But Caleb was in a Bears jersey, so we have to talk about Caleb. Caleb had some,
John did say this right here. He said, "JK, Caleb, he needs a line before you really know who he is." But clearly, we saw that with Jaden Daniels yesterday. His line was holding up. He giving him time in the pocket. That's all Caleb needs. That's all any quarterback needs is time in the pocket. The last few years with Justin Fields at quarterback under center, he was getting, tackled like crazy. Using his legs, he had that 440, 4.40. That's why he was moving so fast. But, I agree that give a team, the quarterback a line that he deserves, no line he deserves, and he will, do wonders for you. And Caleb did have a great game playing behind an awful line. He threw the ball, what was it, 53 times, right, Dan?
Yep.
52 times. 52, yeah. And one of the reporters was like, Caleb, you threw the ball 52 times, right? And he's like, I threw the ball 52 times. It didn't even seem like he threw the ball 52 times, in my opinion, when I was watching that game. But 363 yards, which is crazy for, a Bears court. I'm not saying there's quarterbacks out there like Patrick Mahomes that could do 360, and that's on a normal basis. But us being Bears fans, we haven't seen that,
we're not
in a
used to
long
that.
time. Yeah.
And so obviously going to that stat right now, we can kind of talk about that. That was the most passing yards by a rookie in a game, a rookie QB in Bears history. So that's historic. I mean, that's the excellence that we're kind of aiming for. It's not we're looking for the best QB in the league. We're looking for a QB that can break Bears numbers, right? Which are obviously mediocre. So we just want to get a player on that stat sheet that shows that the Bears have once had a good quarterback. So that's kind of my only goal for this. But yes, like we said, bad O-line, and we could talk as many times and blame as many people as we want, but 52 passes is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing, right? Because bad thing is the idea that it's just there was no run game, so we had to get the ball in his hands. So it's another reason why he threw for 363 yards. it's more like I look at him almost more like 310 yards because of that 50-yard throw that DJ Moore caught. He's not going to get one of those games. So I think I look at it almost more like 300 yards, 32 completions, 35. We'll go through the number later on. But yeah, there's a good and bad. Same way we just started this episode. Like there's just a lot of in and out when it comes to quarterback play. But going into the game here. So let's just finish up talking about the game because I'm really excited to get into the week 4. I think week 4 is going to be a big game. We're really excited about talking about week 3. So we kind of got a little bit of that info that we were waiting for on Caleb. But so speaking of the game was obviously ugly, as we mentioned. The Bears were scoreless in the first 2 quarters, which doesn't happen often. That's a very big Matt Nagy stat when I think about it.
Yeah,
I remember Matt Nagy.
Usually we get a field goal, either or. Yeah. We either get a field goal or 2 field goals or 8 field goals, knowing the Bears offense. But being scoreless in the first 2 quarters, it was kind of ugly on both sides of the ball. Anthony Richardson was missing wide open throws. The run game wasn't getting going for the Bears, and it was an ugly first half in football in general for that game. I'm not trying to, get away from how ugly the Bears were in the first half, but it was in general in the first half, it was kind of an ugly game.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So by halftime, it was only 7-0. And that's usually how the games went with Indianapolis. I think there's 2 teams that always come head to head, and they always have a pretty low scoring game. But this game was just outright ugly. Like it was a little bit tough to watch. There was definitely moments where I kind of would stand up and I'd be like, okay, give me 5 minutes. I'll come back and nothing's happened still. Maybe an interception or maybe a fumble or maybe like a fake fumble that they thought was a fumble recovery, but it was just forward progress. Like whatever. But as you could see, it wasn't a pretty game. So if you did miss it, you didn't miss much because the fourth quarter was definitely the time that you wanted to start watching. But the Bears did score a field goal in the third quarter and then 2 touchdowns in the fourth. One of those touchdowns, we did miss a 2-point extra try, which was necessary. I'm glad that we did go for that because I would have made it a 3-point game. But we did miss that, so 2 touchdowns, technically 13 points on the board. And then the Colts scored a touchdown in the second, third, and fourth, no field goals. They did punt a lot, and the time of possession was completely different. So I do want you to understand, watching our stream here, is that the Bears owned this game. When it came down to it, right, even though the Colts were scoring on a higher basis, they had a way better run game. They were making deep completions. The Bears owned this game because we had, at least 20% more time with the ball than they did, which is definitely something that we want to see. That we're completing more first downs. We're getting more third down completions as well, where we're going third and fourth and we're getting those completions. Like that's something that I was really excited to see. That's just something that means that the offense is kind of, they're registering these players and when they're open and the option route. So I was really happy about the way that looked.
Yeah, I agree with that. There was a few instances in the game where it could flip the Bears' way. You brushed over it a little bit with that forward progress being called with Anthony Richardson. He, got the ball out. I thought the whistle was after the ball, but that could have been a turn of the game for the Bears. But let's not. The Bears, they lost the game themselves because the offense. We only got 2 touchdowns during the game. The defense was great, but there was also another play too after that touchdown. Like you said, Dan, we did go for 2, but Eberflus and the coaching staff had no idea. You got to know what the score is at that point, and they had no idea what the score was at. And all of a sudden, they're like, "Okay, let's go for 1." He put his finger up. He's like, "Oh wait, no, let's go for 2." But the clock was winding down. They had to call a timeout. That was another wasteful timeout. There's 2 weeks in a row we had a wasteful timeout, and you can't do. That's you don't get 7 timeouts a game. You only get 3 per half.
Exactly.
You better use those timeouts wisely, or especially when the Bears had we're gonna get the ball back. Potentially after Jonathan Taylor got that first down in the fourth quarter. So that would have been big to have another timeout in our back pocket. Potentially would have gotten the ball back maybe one more time if we stopped another first down. But I agree, Dan. It was a little bit of an ugly offensive game for the Bears. Caleb looked great passing, but the defense held us up in this game. Anthony Richardson didn't do too well. He was missing wide open throws. He was overthrowing people. This was kind of a game for potentially the Bears to win, in my opinion. With Caleb having 353 yards and 2 touchdowns, he did have 2 crucial interceptions. He did have one that, in my opinion, I'm not trying to be a biased Bears fan. There was that play where I think it was Odunze did get hit by the cornerback. It looked a little early, could have been DPI. But, it went into the other defender's hands. I believe the last name was Taylor on the Colts. I forgot his name. But Yeah, that could have been a defensive pass interference. It wasn't called, but I'm not going to say that it was 100%. But then there was another interception as well. But yeah, like I said, it was the offense is getting better. We got 2 passing touchdowns, which is awesome. The run game is not looking any better, unfortunately. The reason why I think the run game is not looking any better is because this O-line cannot block. Saved our lives. We had that. We didn't even brush over this play, but let's talk about the 4 downs at the goal line where we went for Wildcat on the first play, which, to be honest, I thought Wildcat on the first play, that was I thought that was going to be an instant touchdown.
Oh yeah.
No, we got stopped. Okay. At that second point, I'd say run the ball one more time. Let's see if they can stop one more run. So we did run the ball again. No, didn't get in. Now at that point, when it's 3rd and goal, I'm thinking at the 1-yard line, we got to pass. We got to pass the ball and we got to, get into the end zone. Nope, we ran it for a 3rd time. And then the 4th time, I thought this play was for sure going to be an inside handoff, or B, maybe let's go with a, QB sneak by Caleb Williams. No, we went for the most random outside toss play that was supposed to have blockers, but if you saw the picture that's trending on Twitter, like Will Levis was trending last 3 weeks, 4 of the Bears offensive linemen were laying on the ground in that play because they missed their blocks. And
and everyone paused. Like everyone paused in that play where it just felt like we gave the defense 2 seconds to kind of mentally prepare for where the ball was going to be after we snapped it. So that was disgusting, that play. And that play could have changed the game, which is what sucks, right?
It's a game-changing play right there. That gave the, turnover downs on the 4th down, which is not good for the Bears. We needed that touchdown. Not saying it needed to be a passing touchdown, but after a few plays, if the run is not working, you got to switch up the scheme a little bit. And Eberflus and Shane Waldron didn't decide to do that, and it cost them. It cost them a turnover and downs, and it gave the ball right back to the Colts. So yeah, we'll brush past that now because obviously that was like the number one play that even every sports commentator and sports reporter on Twitter was talking about. People from different organizations, they were saying, why would they go for that was probably one of the worst play calls on 4th down that. It's been like people are saying that was one of the worst plays on 4th down ever. He got a negative 12-yard loss. So it's not like we even
bad.
It's not even they stopped the ball, at the 1-yard line and we potentially get a safety. There was a 12-yard loss in that play, so there's already that that much room that the Colts can work with. So
yeah, that was bad. That was definitely a disgusting play. I wish Shane had a little bit more peace of mind when it came to the safer options, right? At that point in the game, we knew that the run game wasn't going to be, especially on a handoff or a toss like that, wasn't going to be the way that we were going to score. I think Indianapolis knows that. I wish it was a little bit of an easier pass play. Caleb could have got 3 touchdowns here, I think, in this game easily. But yeah, unfortunately, that play was bad. A couple weeks now, we've seen some memes of the offensive line. That one definitely sealed the deal for me when it comes to the idea of, will this offensive line last throughout the year? I'd probably not. I do not think so. But going back to the game here, we could talk about the offensive line all day, but we can definitely cover more of the good news when it came to the offensive line later on. Obviously, they didn't play all that bad. They played a lot better than they did last week. But picking up back on the game, so both offenses looked pretty miserable, but the Bears offense definitely picked up in the 4th quarter, which is a good thing to note because 4th quarter means, trying to win this game, trying to stick together. Everyone's tired. Everyone's been playing for a full hour so far. So that was definitely good seeing them pick it up on the 4th, but it again came down to a 1 possession game when we had a unsuccessful onside kick all the way at the end of the game there, which would have helped us out if we had an extra timeout. Then we could have stopped the ball again with Jonathan Taylor running for that 1st down, very last play of the game. But it was not the worst ending. I think it felt a little bit better than the Houston ending, because the Houston ending actually gave us an opportunity, whereas in this game I felt if we got the opportunity to kick a field goal, I think we could have got the field goal, but being down 5, we had to get the touchdown. So this game was just a little bit different. I think if we got the ball back, there was a chance we could have won this game with the way Caleb was playing. But again, not all is bad, because the next topic that we're going to talk about is definitely the one thing that we've been looking forward to this entire offseason, right? All the way leading up from the draft. Me and you talked about the idea of Caleb and Adunze playing together, thriving together, and this was exactly what happened this game. So that's the exciting part. That's the point that we need to kind of put more pressure on, right?
Yeah.
The idea that Jaden Like,
Yeah,
all
with
these
Keenan Allen
other.
being out, obviously somebody needs to,
Yeah.
take over in the offense. We kind of saw DeAndre Carter kind of fill in a little bit. Obviously, he's no Keenan Allen, but DeAndre Carter did do well, and somebody needed to step up in order for the Bears to potentially march down the field. And like you said, Dan, Rome Odunze was the
Yeah.
guy for the Bears to, get in there. So yeah,
He was the
keep going,
deep
Dan. Sorry, I
play
didn't mean to cut you
threat.
off.
No, no worry. He was the deep play threat. And as you keep talking about how all these different rookie quarterbacks differ, I think the idea that Caleb has Rome Odunze is a little bit different than all the other quarterbacks in the rookie class this year. Obviously, Jaden has a good presence in the wide receiver room there, but I still don't think it's stronger than Chicago. So I think Chicago does have a better evolved offense. It's just about the quarterback, right? The quarterback getting the correct passes. But Caleb did throw his first NFL passing touchdown to Rome Odunze, his first NFL catching touchdown in the fourth quarter of the game. It was I think it was at the 9-minute mark, or it might have been around the 7-minute mark. It was an excellent throw, excellent catch. I think Rome impressed me because he got so much separation on the one-on-one against a pretty, top tier cornerback, like maybe middle of the pack cornerback, but that's still a pretty big, risk to take because he was covered pretty well, but he got just enough space, and Caleb put it exactly where it needed to be. And their celebration was awesome, and it was just good to see. I wish I see a little bit more of that replay going around on all these streaming services rather than, seeing a bunch
It's
of
like
replays
that
from
pass in
yesterday.
week 2 that almost went out, that bounced out of Odunze's hands, and we talked about that. If Odunze couldn't, if could have hauled it in, but it was cool seeing Caleb and Rome connect on that touchdown. It was finally hope for being a Bears fan that finally we're getting some passing touchdowns in there. And afterwards they did say that Rome is going to keep that ball. Caleb, there was a little cool on the sideline with Caleb and Rome like figuring out, oh no, give me the ball. It was really cool kind of seeing them do that. But Rome, they did say Rome is going to keep that ball, but then later on they did have one more touchdown. Caleb did throw a wide open pass to Cole Kmet on the right side of the end zone. I believe Cole Kmet probably gave him the touchdown ball after that.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he
so
did.
Wanted to give Rome, his, dues on his first one, and Caleb get his second passing touchdown or whatever. So,
so that's after halftime. You could tell that the Bears were definitely like, "Hey, red zone offense. What are we doing? Why are we risking all these plays for just simple run plays or tosses? Try to give Caleb the ball, let him feel comfortable. We have some of the fastest, largest, strongest receivers in the league, so let them get the ball. I wish I could mention Keenan in this game, right? But Keenan obviously was out. It was so nice to see Rome finally get a few catches, and again, the long, deep plays. Like if I beg you guys, if you haven't watched the game, go watch these replays. It's electrifying. It's exactly what the Bears have been looking for. It's a bit reminiscent of the way the team played last year, where it's a lot of just big play potential, but it just feels easier for Caleb. It feels so simple. It feels like he can get the ball out immediately, get them in the pocket, and just hit them in between the numbers. Like it felt excellent. So here we are. We talked about it last week on Bear Down, Bear Frown. Caleb 2 touchdown passes. So that's an incredible feeling. That knowing that we got that right, that we didn't have to settle for one or settle for the loss with the 0 touchdown passes. So definitely a good end to the game. I think he started off rough, but then as Caleb got more comfortable, throwing those touchdown passes in the fourth quarter, I felt a lot more comfortable with Caleb as well.
Yeah, I agree. By the end of the game, obviously I'm kind of a Bears win or a Bears loss kind of makes or breaks my Sunday. The rest of the day, like, depends on how much football I want to watch. Unfortunately, after that game, like I was, just in the moment, I'm just always super unhappy Bears fan if they lose. I just don't I'm like telling, people just don't talk to me. I just give me a few hours, let me breathe a little bit. But, afterwards, the next day, kind of, going on Twitter, reading what people said, I was, it was a step in the right direction for a Bears, being a Bears fan. Not like last week. Last week was like, that should have been our game. It was a 1-score game for a long time, should have been our game, and it wasn't. But this game had potential, obviously, for Caleb, the defense as well. And that's all we can ask for, every week, improving, if we're seeing a down, like we said, if we're seeing them kind of, progress down, let's say Caleb started with 200 passing yards in week 1 and now he's at 100 or something like that. And he's getting sacked way more. He only took 4 sacks during the game. So that's good. I hate to say only, but the week before there was seven sacks on Caleb. So
we got that right as well. So that's awesome. Good news. Obviously, I think that's the O-line playing a little better. I think it's also Caleb understanding the spacing that he gets with this O-line. He was always used to just being able to run out of the pocket and have a good amount of room because players wouldn't chase him. He's a lot quicker. But the defensive linemen of the Colts, those are some quick guys, right? Even their rookie Latu, like there's some quick guys that definitely got on Caleb's shoulders early in the game and quick. But yeah, he did a lot of good decision making. He had some poor decision making, right? Let's not rule out the idea that he had 2 interceptions. One not being his fault, one being the receiver's fault for not just, batting it out or kind of getting 2 good hands on there.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was entirely his miscue. I think he was just a lazy throw, didn't have his feet set, threw it into the corner, and it was one of the easiest interceptions I think I've ever seen someone have. Like they just kind of jumped in front of DeAndre Carter there. And then the fumble, right? The fumble I think to me was the most upsetting part. It's just that's the O-line, but that's also Caleb. I think Caleb's just got a little bit better vision, knowing who's around him, getting his first touch. He's one of the fastest passers in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he should be able to, on those plays, get the ball out just a tad bit quicker, get it to his running back, get it to his tight end, because that's exactly what happened in the fourth quarter. Like they just started meshing together, and he understood, get the ball out, find who's open, get the first down, like as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so he did have his first fumble, in this game, which is, understandable, just because of the pass rush and the O-line not holding up. But it's good. Yeah, I'm trying to look at the positive of this. It's good that this is his first fumble in the third week. What didn't happen in the first week? He's not getting the pocket, like it's not like he wasn't reading the pocket well. When he had to take a sack, he's covering the ball, which is good. That's good. Being for Caleb as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good that. I'm not saying it's great that he took a fumble, but it's good that he took a fumble in week 3. He's going to learn from that mistake.
Mm-hmm.
At least it wasn't a crucial fumble where like it could have make or break the game. Well, it might have, but it just that obviously with the run offense and stuff like that, it just didn't really click for the Bears this game. But I think it's a learning experience for Caleb. I go back with life quote. You got to learn from your mistakes. If you don't make any mistakes, you're never going to learn from what you're doing wrong. So Caleb, it was a good. I hate to say a good mistake by Caleb, but he made the mistake and he's going to learn from it. That obviously the pocket can't hold up as well, and he'll be more aware. He will.
Yeah, and he's definitely gonna understand from these mistakes heading into week 4.
Yeah,
against a team like the Rams where they have coaching staff that's all won championships. They have a QB that's won a championship, so they're definitely going to be focusing Caleb a little bit more on the idea of how can you complement the roster the same way Matthew Stafford does, right?
Yeah.
And we'll get into that a little bit later on because it's definitely going to be a very interesting conversation. Obviously, as you may know, Caleb's biggest football idol were Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford, both guys from the NFC North. So it's definitely an interesting thing to hear, but we'll cover that a little bit later. Yeah. First, let's just go over some notable stats that we had. So we're just going to go over some player stats, the players that did well and the players that didn't do well. Obviously, 50-50 chance there. I think a lot of the offense and defense both had bad games. But starting here with Caleb, right? Caleb, again, historical game for the Bears, best rookie passing yard performance in Bears history. He went for 33 passes on 52 attempts for 363 yards. Obviously, one of those passes was the 50-yard random catch by DJ Moore to end the first half. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble, 4 sacks, and then 1 rush for 8 yards. How does that make you feel, Tyler, compared to what we saw last week, right, when we saw the 200 yards passing? He almost doubled it. Every single game, he's almost doubling what he had the week prior. So that's important for me, honestly.
It makes me feel great, being a Bears fan and, watching Caleb progress through into week 3. I just think, he's got 2 touchdowns. So obviously he finally got his first passing touchdown. He got 1 more touchdown. So he's at, 2 more touchdowns that he was at with the season. He had 2 interceptions, which he's going to learn for those. The fumble was, that was a big fumble. He's going to learn from that as well. And, less sacks as well. He got only 4 sacks. He escaped out of the pocket. There was one great play where he escaped out of the pocket. Could have been a sack. He rolled around from the defender, and he had an amazing throw on the left side. It was just used his whole entire arm. He did have another one as well, but they did call an offensive holding. I forgot who that was on. I think it was on Cole Kmet or something like that. He had another play like that where he was rolling out, and I love seeing him pass on the run. It's just he's got an arm, man. He really does. And he's can put it where it needs to be so that, the defender, especially a close pass, so that the defender can't get it, especially if they're right on top of him.
Yeah.
Like you said, he did have 1 rush for 8 yards. He's not rushing unless he needs to. And clearly he only needed to rush 1 time. So that's good
smart.
for
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Not getting
he didn't have to evade the pocket often. But also before he even thought about using his legs, he checked downfield. And usually when he checked downfield, he found a player to pass to. So that was really important for me to see. I was really happy with the yardage total he got. Again, 1 less interception or even 1 less fumble, I'd be a lot more happy about it. I think having 3 turnovers is just especially in a game like this. Like, it could have been such an easy win if it was just one less turnover.
Agree.
So,
yeah.
And then we're going to head on to the rushing here, because the running back room obviously is deep, right? We have a lot of rushers here, but with Travis Homer on IR, so there's a little bit less. There's one less player that's on there, and obviously Blasingame is also injured as well. So Roschon got the head nod here, really. So DeAndre Swift started, but Roschon got the 8 carries for 30 yards, 4 catches for 32 yards. He was definitely the most relevant running back. He just, I think Poles and Flus saw what happened to him last game after getting punched, and they said, you know what? Roschon deserves some minutes. What happened to the idea of not playing him? He was such a high energy guy last year. 8 carries, 30 yards, 4 catches, 32 yards.
And he's a great pass blocker, man.
He is.
Pass blocker and run blocker.
Roschon head first.
Having Roschon in there, it like adapts that offense a little bit more, especially if you're doing a screen pass, which we, Bears fans love the screen passes but getting 8 carries for 30 yards, obviously 30 yards is not too much, but he did get 8 carries. So clearly the Bears coaches
got us
trust
2 first downs.
Yeah, got
which
2
is a big
first
deal.
downs. Compared to, getting to the next player, which, we paid him big money in the offseason, 3 years, I believe, for like $24 million, something crazy. DeAndre Swift, had 13 carries, 20 yards, 2 catches on 22 yards. Maybe we have to use Swift more in the passing game, in my opinion, because he looks like he can do more when he has a little bit more of an open field. Now, when it comes down to him rushing the ball, he's just a little bit slower with it. Roschon just looks like he's a little bit quicker, and I kind of even trust Khalil Herbert more rushing the ball over DeAndre Swift at the moment. Until this offensive line can start blocking a little bit more, I think Roschon and Khalil Herbert can be the rushing backs for Chicago. Let's have DeAndre Swift in there. They're gonna be like, oh, we might rush with DeAndre Swift, and then check it down to him, and then let him see what he can do to work in the field. That's what he did well on the Eagles. And that's what he needs to do well with Chicago as well. We have Roschon on a cheap deal. We have Khalil Herbert on a cheap deal. Let's use those guys at running back until, God forbid somebody gets hurt. Dan, you have any thoughts on that?
It's a deep room. I mean, you got to give everyone a little bit of an opportunity. Yeah. I think Swift, I love the upside of Swift still. There's no way in hell I'm going to be talking about releasing him or letting him go anytime soon. I think it's just about the offensive line kind of forming the right patterns for him.
Yeah, I agree.
Because DeAndre Swift isn't necessarily a fast player, but he definitely is, like in his name, he's swift. He's good. He's going to juke you out. He's going to go those extra few yards. He, I think, is a less of a compliment to what the Bears had a really high octane offense with David Montgomery. I think Roschon matches David Montgomery's like steam and like his just headbutting ability a little bit better than DeAndre Swift does. So I think Swift is a little bit of a newer, kind of different age running back from what we're used to. I think he's a little bit more like shifty and can kind of get the extra yards. We haven't seen that yet, though. That's the kind of thing that's been a problem for me. And seeing Roschon come in here with 8 carries for 30 yards, not great, but the best rushing performance so far. I mean, we're looking at other players in the league, where, players like Saquon, when they're getting 30 carries for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like that is how the Bears offense used to work, right? We used to be very rush heavy, and so now it's just a little bit of a different pace. So yeah, I'm happy about it. So I'm happy that at least the passing game has flourished, has kind of become a different tier in the offense. So
clearly if the rushing game isn't going, we got to figure out another end, which has to be the passing game with Caleb in his arm, and into like the players we're talking about, the stats with wide receivers as well, like Odunze, DJ Moore, when Keenan Allen comes back. But until the run blocking becomes better, if it does become better over the next few games, the Rams do not have that great of a defense this year ever since what's his name, retired. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Edge rusher.
For what team?
The Rams.
Aaron Donald, yeah,
I couldn't think of his
Aaron
name.
Donald, yes.
Since he retired, the defense kind of, they're not as good. They're I'm not saying they're terrible, but they're not as good as they used to be, last year. So this week, going into next week, once we cover that, a few minutes, this could be a good week to potentially get some more the run game going. But if it's not going within the first quarter, God, we got to stick back to the pass game like we did with this game with the Colts.
Exactly, just like this game. So heading into the pass catcher stats here, this was probably the most notable part of the entire game, right? So obviously Rome got his connection with Caleb. Rome had 6 catches for 112 yards, 1 touchdown, and then 1 rush for 2 yards. This is his first 100-yard game. It's his first game with more than 3 catches. So it was very impressive to see him, finally stretch out and become that big, deep threat that we had. I think he is stealing the minutes from what I thought Tyler Scott would have had, or like Velus Jones. So I'm very excited to see that he's going to be reaching his prime very, very soon, like at some point this season. And then Cole Kmet, 10 catches, 97 yards, 1 touchdown. Easily his best game this season. Maybe not his best game in a Bears uniform, but his best game with Caleb regardless. So that was an incredible game. I think he's, when it comes to like fantasy football, he's going to be reaching a lot of those teams this week, just because that connection that Caleb has with his tight end is going to be very, very good. And
I think the Bears coaching staff is listening to us, because I know there's a few things we kind of talked about. Get Cole Kmet going in the pass game. Gerald, we didn't see Gerald Everett that much. They're flipping roles.
Yeah.
That's there's a reason why we paid Cole Kmet the big money. He's a great blocker. He's a great a route runner right now, and he did get a touchdown. Obviously, 97 yards for 10 catches. So that is great. We got to get Cole Kmet going. Spread the offense around. We got to alleviate some pressure from certain people. We can't DJ Moore. We can't have just one receiver. Get all the targets. That means they're going to get double covered. That's just like the Vikings. The Vikings are finally spreading the ball around, but week 1 they're double covering Justin Jefferson and stuff like that, because there's not any other receivers out there. So spread the ball, spread the love. That's what I'm saying.
Spread the love indeed. And so reaching to Moore, who obviously was a wide receiver 1 last year and wide receiver 1 this year, he had 8 catches for 78 yards, 1 rush for -6 yards. I'm noticing a lot of 1 rush attempts for a lot of these wide receivers, which is good. It's taking a little bit from the Chiefs playbook, making sure everyone is a little bit more dependable on every side of the ball. So that's nice. I was really happy to see that. He again was second on the team in targets behind Cole Kmet. So I don't know if we'll see this kind of this happen again next week or in future weeks, but I do expect Moore to regain the idea of having the most targets on the team, having those catches as well, and just being the leader on offense here. But it was a nice sight to see Odunze finally, reach out, and then Kmet finally have that comeback game that we were just looking forward to.
It was great seeing different wide receivers, get the action as well. Rome needed a good game coming up. If he did not perform well in week 3, there would have been questions, Bears Twitter, all around saying, did we, I think we talked about a few weekends ago that we had a question asking, did the Bears make a mistake by not drafting a lineman instead of Rome Odunze? With 112 yards and a touchdown, I don't think that's a mistake. Rome clearly is a great route runner. He has great hands as well. Obviously, he did have that missed catch last week that we talked about, where it's like, people are like, I thought he had such great hands. But he probably had nerves, it's kind of, first few games in the NFL. So Rome finally gained, even over 50 yards for Rome. That was great. He had 112 and a touchdown. Cole Kmet, gained 97. DJ Moore gained 78. These are great stats for the receivers. We got once Keenan Allen comes back, and we need to get him healthy. I don't want to rush him back. I hate to say it, but I'll take one more loss in the category and rest him one more time if he's not out there and that gets the loss, instead of, getting him out there and then re-aggravating that heel, and then he has to go on IR for 4 weeks. We want to see him play.
We want to see him play. He's a very big missing piece of this offense, and he's definitely going to be another player that's going to get 6 to 8 targets a game. And especially in the red zone, like, that guy is untouchable when it comes to his route running. So definitely miss him. Missed him this game a little bit, but it's just nice to see that Caleb definitely can work without him, is kind of the way I'm looking at it. That Caleb has thrived without him on the roster. So once he comes back, we'll see exactly how well that works out.
Did you hear the rumors today all around kind of Bears, on Google and Bears Twitter and stuff like that about Keenan Allen?
No, what have you heard?
I forgot to tell you about this. So basically, there's these rumors saying that Keenan Allen won't be signing an extension with the Bears. Reason why is the Bears might target another veteran wide receiver in the offseason and give somebody else the money instead of Keenan Allen. Maybe they're saying that because of his injury history with his heel this year, but the player they are saying that the Bears might target in 2025 for veteran presence is Chris Godwin from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Which I can see a solid slot receiver. I think he is definitely worth the money more so than Keenan is, just because of Keenan's age. Chris Godwin also has injury history. I won't doubt that. I think they have quite similar injury history. I don't know. I think when I think about this, I say take the money that you would pay him and get 2 good offensive linemen. I'm on the boat
with you, man. Seeing what the Bears can do without Keenan Allen, obviously in the first 2 game. Those were the losses that Keenan Allen wasn't in there. But I agree, we have to get protection, and I kind of just brought that up, on the spot, just because I was googling stuff with Keenan Allen today, just trying to see how his injury is, and people are like, Keenan Allen might not be on. This might be a one and done year for Keenan Allen. So let's ride it out. He said he is willing to not play with a contract extension. He wants to prove that it could be the wide receiver, which is good. That's good for Bears fans. It's good that he's not sitting out and being like, I don't want I need an extension, kind of like with the guy from the Jets is doing right now. It's
Hassan Reddick.
Yeah, Hassan Reddick. So, so I just wanted to bring that up because I saw that today. But Keenan Allen, once we get him going, it'll be great, and we'll see if we extend him in the next season with seeing how his injuries are this year. But,
yeah, we'll definitely get into that later on the season. Let's see him play.
Yeah.
I want to see.
I agree.
Because he might be worth the extension still, especially for his veteran presence and just how I still think he's the best route runner in the NFL. But let's go back to some stats here. So that's about it from the offensive side. Other than Cairo Santos, he had 1 for 2 on field goals. He missed 1 field goal. It was on target, but it was just a bit short. I think he
56
definitely could have made that. I think he could have made that.
I think that was great. That was on target. He was just slightly short. So I'm not upset. We pay him money. He's not shaking it left. He's not shaking it right. It was just a little short. And then he did have one a few, I think it was a quarter later. It was a 53 yards, so 3 yards closer. He did make it, and he did have room to spare. So he did put a little more oomph on that kick.
That's good. And I feel like that's just kind of the difference of being in a dome. I think he just had to, put some more power on that because I think he didn't have the weather on his side there. But back to the defense here. Montez Sweat got the only sack of the game. He finished with, I think he had 4 tackles and just 1 sack. And then the defense, had a couple other players. We definitely had 2 interceptions from Tremaine Edmonds and Jalen Johnson. Both really good interceptions. I think Tremaine Edmonds got the one in the red zone from Anthony Richardson. It just kind of like, oh my gosh, this is coming right for me, so I'm going to grab this. Again, really good plays on both sides of the ball for most of these Bears defensive players, the big names at least that had good games. And then Torrey Taylor at the end, 3 punts with a 42-yard average, and he only had 1 punt inside the 20, which isn't great. I think for his, in the last 2 games, he usually had 2 or 3 inside the 20, so this one would have been nice to see them.
He did have one that sailed out of bounds. He was really mad about that, and I'm sad. But also, he did have a running into the punter, penalty against him. That was a big controversial thing, saying that, did the punt get tipped or not? It was so hard to see, even when you're like, going frame by frame with it. The ball didn't look like it changed spin, but he did get hit in the leg. So hopefully he's not on the injury report come tomorrow with Wednesday. But he did look a little shaken up after that play. He was kind of grimacing a bit, but we do need Torrey Taylor on the punting side. We need Torrey Taylor. We need, Cairo Santos obviously kicking the field goals for us. That's why we got Torrey Taylor in the 4th round. That's why we signed Cairo Santos to an extension. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy with special teams. I think special teams did well.
I agree.
I think we're just waiting for that one punt to happen, right, where Torrey Taylor finally gets a good spin on it. We get him at the 1-yard line and then get a return touchdown. It's kind of what I'm looking for. It's going to happen sooner or later. I think it's not like a rookie problem. I think it's more so just where we're being placed with the ball and how we aren't, leading it down the field every time. But again, 3 punts, way better than the last few games. I think this is more of what Caleb's looking for. He doesn't want the punter to punt 6-7 times in a game. I think 3 punts is totally fine because also he's another offensive weapon for us where, flip the ball, flip the side. But that's about it when it comes to player stats. So some good, some bad. Mainly going through the good ones there on offense. The offense did, lead for a portion of the game. We didn't lead in scoring, but we led in time of possession, in yards, in rushing for most of the game as well. So let's just go over some positives and negatives, some quick bullet points here. I'm going to go ahead and read a couple of the positive ones, and I guess you can tell me if you disagree or if you have any ones that you want to talk about here. So positives for the Bears are Caleb's arm. Excellent throw. Just really, he's just a sturdy thrower. I think he got a lot of presence in the pocket, and again, like I mentioned earlier, just hitting players where the balls needed to be, right in the numbers. The connection that Caleb had with Moore, Adunze, and Kmet, I think was a very good thing, because we talked about that last week, how we didn't see them upset. None of them were upset. Everyone was getting fed. Everyone was cooking. So I think that was a really, really important part. Roshan Johnson was my big positive as well. I think he's a player that's going to have to, he's going to have to punish these defensive lines a little bit more, because I think Swift isn't as big as people are trying to, make him be. But I think Roshan can definitely play with his size, his athleticism, his headbutting. Like he just runs in head first, get those few extra yards, and he's gonna stand up immediately. No huddle offense, go back to the same position, rush the ball again. So he's someone that can definitely trust. And again, this is his second year, so he is full of energy. He played behind Bijan Robinson. I think he understands what being a lead back kind of means. I don't see him being a lead back, but he definitely has the potential.
Yeah.
Red zone play calling, I also put as a positive. I think I have red zone play calling as a positive and a negative. So positive just because I think they had some good, passes.
And we got
easy.
touchdowns. We got 2 touchdowns in the game, which is good. So that's positive, in the red zone. There was, like we talked about earlier, there was that play and where's 4 plays in a row on the goal line doing a rush, which was not great offensive play calling whatsoever. But yeah, like we'll talk about that with the negative, but I agree. Like it is positive. That's a positive thing for red zone play calling, finally getting the touchdowns.
They made it easy. They made it easy on Caleb. They gave him some really easy throws. Again, Adunze, first one was 1-on-1. Cole Kmet, second touchdown. He was wide open. So I think those kind of play calling is perfect for this kind of offense that we're running right now. Just get simple touchdowns, a lot of red zone completions, which I was really happy about, and a lot of good throws back to Caleb's arm. So those are the main positives I had. Tyler, let me know if you have any extra positives to add on, but if you wanted to lead with the negatives on the group, let me know what you got.
I think you kind of covered everything with the positives. I really do. I think they did really well, with Caleb's arm looked well. The connection with all the different receivers was awesome. Roshan did amazing in the pass blocking when he needed to. We needed Roshan to play. We got to get him going. And I agree. I think you nailed the head on everything. So negatives for the Bears. I think, run defense is a big negative. Jonathan Taylor is a great back. We can't, disregard that he's not an amazing running back, but he did have a good amount of yards for the Colts. The cornerbacks are, a little bit of a negative. Just depends on which cornerback you're kind of talking about. Jalen Johnson looked good. He did get kind of smoked on one play where he did say, my bad. I don't think it was a touchdown play, if I recall. It was kind of a deep, I think it was a pass to Alec Pierce. I think Alec Pierce kind of burned him a little bit. But yeah, the cornerbacks are a little bit of a negative right now. So the defense, if that's all that's the negative with the defense, we can work on that. We can definitely work on that. Red zone play calling, talking about the plays that we almost scored and didn't. It just depends. Let's not do any trickery plays. Let's just do the plays that work well. Quick slants, inside handoff rushing. We've got to learn. The coaching staff has to learn that the outside run 3 weeks in a row has not worked. We can't pass block, we can't run block on that for DeAndre Swift. So we got to get rid of that. We got to stop doing the outside zone. If it's working, great, but it's not. So
it's very true.
Yeah. First and second down play calling has been much better. Not doing screen passes on the first play or the second play, which is awesome. Finally, getting just quick. Even, any yards is good yards. That's what I say. If you're getting yards, it's great because that's, getting the offense going a little bit. Even these quick 3-yard, 4-yard passes, I'll take them. I'll take them anytime. So yeah, I think first down and second down play calling is getting a little iffy with, the screen passes and stuff, but injuries are looking a little rough for negative right now. We got, Keenan Allen's kind of a question mark. Just kind of see what's going to happen with his heel. I do expect him to be back this week. If he's not back this week, then we kind of have a problem, Dan. We have something to discuss. It's because he hasn't played 2 games in a row. He did have personal matters that he had to deal with too. I'm hoping that it's not something, obviously related to his family or whatever, but also we're not hoping that it's something because he's mad at the Bears coaching staff, which I don't think. Yeah.
I don't think so, but there were a few more injuries during the game, right? I know Tariq Stevenson got injured, Braxton Jones got injured as well, so I'm really looking forward to seeing if those players can suit up again. I think they finished the game. I'm not sure if Braxton did, but we'll just see how those injuries kind of impact the rest of the week for them at practice.
Yeah. Yeah, and then a few more things. Caleb's ball protection looks a little rough right now. I'd say he did have that fumble, but at least he's learning in week 3 instead of, like all the way down at the end of the season where he's still not, adapting, where he has to, cover the ball and stuff like that. But he'll learn from the ball protection, in my opinion. He'll learn. And obviously the last one, which we all know, being a Bears fan, just the last 3 weeks, the O-line has looked horrendous. It's improved. It has improved a lot, But it's, we have to learn, and the Bears coaching staff has to learn that if something's not working, it's not going to work the next week. We have to adjust some things. That's why Matt Pryor was in at right guard. So that was a good adjustment by the Bears coaching staff.
I think Matt Pryor definitely came in and gave some stability. He was the only one standing on that one meme that was posted with every offensive lineman on the ground. So he definitely added a little bit more stability. I'm not going to say that they played ultimately better, but I think with him, it's a short range better, especially against the Colts. That's a defense that can play really well against rookie quarterbacks. They have a pretty good, defensive strategy, but yeah, that was a bit difficult to watch from Caleb's perspective. But let's just understand that Caleb is thriving, and even with the offensive line, he had a pretty good stat line. So I'm happy with that, but it's still going to be a negative until we can create some more presence in the pocket or just kind of add more players in there. It's going to remain a negative, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. All right, dude. I think that's pretty much it. Kind of for wrapping up. There wasn't a whole lot for the Bears offense. With we did get those touchdowns, obviously, which was great. But there wasn't a whole lot with the run. Finally, Odunze started clicking. DJ Moore started to click a little bit. Which obviously he's been clicking since week 1. So I think this is steps in the right direction for being a Bears fan. I'm not a super unhappy Bears fan. I'm just a slightly unhappy Bears fan, if that makes sense. Yeah. So
definitely.
Yeah. So now, let's kind of get right into week 4. Week 4 is a big week for the Bears because it's either we're gonna go 1-3 or we're gonna go 2-2. And one sounds much better than the other, right, Dan?
Oh, definitely. I would love to be 2-2 here. So the Bears are going off against another team that has the same record as us. We are hosting the Los Angeles Rams here at Soldier Field at 12 p.m. Central. A good day game. I'm pretty excited about those because it feels like recently we've played in the domes or played the Sunday night game. So I'm excited to get back to Soldier Field midday. This is a game where we really need to see Caleb play well at home, thriving in a normal game. So it's going to be interesting. The Rams are obviously 1-2, coming back from a 20-point comeback against San Francisco, actually, which is a really good defense. So it's definitely going to be exciting to see how that game goes. The Bears open up as 3-point favorites, which is in my eyes a surprise. I think they're doing that because of the Bears defense and because of the injuries that are happening for the Rams at the moment. Obviously, you may know their top 2 wide receivers, number 1 and number 2, are both out. One's on IR, one's just kind of missing 3 or 4 games. So that's interesting for me. A 3-point favorite. I'm happy about that. Especially since the last 3
the sportsbook kind of saw what Caleb kind of did, this week, getting 365 yards, getting 2 touchdowns as well. That kind of, that's an improvement in the right direction, for obviously getting the Bears to be favored against the Rams, a team that doesn't have 2 of their top wide receivers. They also, they do have a good run game. We did kind of see how Jonathan Taylor did. Kyron Williams is a great back. Bears defense needs to hold that up. But it's gonna be a great game on Sunday. I think it's gonna be an awesome game for the Bears wide receivers. We can hopefully cook the cornerbacks. They can running game needs to get going. It does.
Oh yeah, it has to. This is also an interesting game, as I mentioned earlier. Caleb has several interviews of him talking about Matthew Stafford and how he thinks Matthew Stafford is the most underrated quarterback in all history, which I can totally vouch that. I mean, we grew up watching Matthew Stafford playing on a lot of bad teams, but having incredible seasons. So it's just it's going to be a nice game for Caleb, I think. I think Caleb, we talk about this each week where it's like Caleb has more incentive to play better. He has a better opportunity. He's finally feeling more comfortable. I think this is that game that he actually punishes that defense. Like I think he shows the defense what he's about because he wants Matthew Stafford off the field. He wants Matthew Stafford watching him on offense kind of thing. So I think this is going to be a very interesting game. There are a few injuries on both sides. Obviously, as we mentioned before, so Cooper Kupp is out and Puka Nacua is out as well. And there was another tight end that's questionable. I think those are the only main notable injuries that the Rams have, which is still limits them heavily, right? Let's not get it confused. They played well they played well on Sunday, right, against in that comeback against the 49ers, but they definitely were missing these 2 pieces. So and then when it comes to the Bears injuries, we didn't cover this last week because I think it happened on the 21st. I think it happened just a day before the game, right? Or Travis Homer got put on IR, and we saw Travis Homer get 30% of the carries the first 2 games. So he definitely, I'm not sure if he's going to be missed altogether, but he definitely was one of the favorites of Shane Waldron in the offense. Terrell Smith is obviously doubtful. I think he got an injury from this previous game. That's
Mm-hmm.
something I read, but it might be different. It's just that he did not come back to that game. And the first report that after the game said that his week 4 status is usually up in the air, which up in the air for me kind of gets the idea that if it's the defense, they're probably going to make him doubtful. So from that one report as doubtful, I'm going to keep him as doubtful.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Keenan Allen, obviously questionable. Kari Blasingame questionable, which is another fullback that I think could serve a good purpose in the red zone. I kind of wish we could see him more. Zach Pickens, obviously questionable, waiting to see his return back from his rookie season. And then Braxton Jones, also listed as questionable. I didn't see anything on Braxton Jones. This was purely from my viewpoint. There was nothing written about his injury or the way if he didn't come back to the game or not. I have him as questionable just because that's a player that we have to monitor for sure on the offense.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of names you just said right there for, Bears injuries and stuff like that. Big name that we already talked about, Keenan Allen. He needs to play in week 4, in my opinion. We can't have him sit any longer. Caleb needs another weapon on the offense. DeAndre Carter has been the weapon, but he's no Keenan Allen, obviously. So Keenan Allen, and then also Braxton Jones is another big name because we need him in the lineup so that Nate Davis doesn't take his spot. Nate Davis is not proven they can do anything, especially 3 games into the season. So that's a big injury. Braxton Jones. We'll monitor that tomorrow.
Exactly.
The Wednesday report will come out for all the teams. We'll figure out who is questionable, not limited. Did not participate. So we'll figure that out tomorrow on Wednesday. So.
All right, so that goes through all the injuries. We're here for the week 4 preview, going with some adjustments, Tyler. So we're going to go through this and then give you a little bit back to the bear down, bear frown that we had so much fun with last week. And we went 2 for 4, so we went 50% on it last week. So let's go ahead and take a look here on week 4 adjustments. I written down a lot of random ones, just kind of thinking about ideas. But go ahead and Tyler, tell me which ones you think are most important, or what would you change personally?
Ooh. Yeah, so I think a big one that obviously you wrote that down here second. I think Caleb needs to protect the ball and make sure that he has his passes are secure and good passes. Caleb needs to kind of use his eyes a little bit better. He's been using them great, but just he needs to be a little bit more where it'd be like, oh, is this pass potentially going to get picked off? Or is this pass going to maybe have a 20% completion? So I think he needs to protect the ball a little bit more. And then also another thing that I see here that I think is great is that, Roschon needs to play again. He proved that he can get some, playing time, obviously with Travis Homer being on IR. So get Roschon involved in the run blocking, get him involved in the run, pass threat as well. I like Roschon playing, week 4 and give him some touches as well, Dan.
Definitely. I definitely like the idea of just keep running with Roschon. I think that's a big point that we can kind of solidify there. I think he's definitely he's the easiest and the most qualified so far. 8 rushes for 30 yards. It's not crazy, but I think he just proved himself after that last game that he deserves more touches. I think the biggest one for me here would probably be the cornerbacks. I think need to strengthen up a little bit. I think they, again, premier defense, great linebacker core, good defensive line. I'm really happy that the defensive line is kind of stacked up now. But I think the cornerbacks, I think Jalen had a little bit of a less aggressive game this last game, especially being matched up with like Pittman and Downs. I think he definitely should have had a little bit better of a game then. And I think that's the only thing that scares me is that Anthony Richardson isn't an incredible passer, but he's still got some really good passes off and passes that were 60 yards down the field. So I think that's just a change that's going to need to happen. And let's be honest, Matthew Stafford is what Anthony Richardson wished he was. So it's Matthew Stafford has the ability for more deep threats to players that we can't necessarily study on film because it's not Puka Nacua, it's not Cooper Kupp. These are players that have played 15 snaps in each game. So it's going to be really important to see just how well the cornerbacks can defend this upcoming team here with the Rams.
Yeah. And then the last one, I think that's huge, with week 4 as well. Let's let Caleb throw in the red zone. If I'm not saying, void the rush whatsoever, but let's let the rush go. If it doesn't end up gaining any yards, let Caleb throw for 3 downs. I'm fine with that. I'm fine. We've seen what Caleb could do on the run, especially how he could spin the ball super fast, even if it's a 5-down check down. I think that we need to let Caleb throw in the red zone.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that's something I trust him a little bit more than the run game right now. So I think I could trust Caleb, which is a good sight. It's a good thing to hear, honestly. I didn't think I would have said that week 3 or week 4, so that's definitely going to be an important thing. But All right, so we're off to the favorite part of the segment for me. I love the idea
I like this. Yeah.
of bear down or bear frown. So we hit 2 of them last week, 2 out of 4. The 2 that we hit were Caleb 2 touchdowns. Yay, that's a really good one. And then Bears 2 interceptions also happened. So that was pretty good. So I'm happy with going 50%, but I want better. I want to hit 100% this week. So I chose a couple ones that are a little bit harder. And Tyler, obviously, if you have any more you want to throw in, please throw them in. But these are ones that are a little bit over the edge or under the edge. So, and I'll go ahead and explain them right now. So let's get started with bear down or bear frown. Tyler, I'm going to throw the first one at you, and then you can throw the next one at me if you'd like. Caleb throws for 350 yards again in week 4. Bear down or bear frown?
I'm going to go bear frown on this one. Reason why, 350 yards. It's a lot of yards, man. It is. It was great that he threw over 350 in the game against the Colts. I'm going to go bear frown on this. I think he's going to go over above 250. I think he'll get above 250 and he'll get the passing game going again. But I do not see him going 350 yards again, at least this week. I think he's going to have a little bit of a regressing week with passing. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to be a high scoring game or a low scoring game, but I do think it's going to be a little bit under 350. How about you, Dan?
I'm gonna go bear down. I'm gonna go over 350. Oh, yeah. I think 350 or over makes sense for me. I think this is a game that Caleb's gonna want to show off to Matthew Stafford, and also I think Caleb watched the game with Jaden Daniels last week, and I think in his mind that he knows that there's 2 ways he can compete for being the best rookie offensively would be getting the turnover rate a lot less, like making sure it's at least 0 turnovers is kind of his goal. And then just throwing it like crazy, throwing the ball and making sure that he gets the idea that he's a passing quarterback and he can survive in this league. In his 4th game is kind of the idea. So I think he goes over 350. And I think it's because Matthew Stafford, one of his idols, is going to be at the game. I think that's why.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. All right, the next one, man. The Bears will get 3 sacks against the Rams. You got bear down or bear frown with this one?
I'm going bear down. Bear down, sorry.
I agree, too. I'm going bear down this one, yeah.
Bear down. I think Matthew Stafford is not a mobile quarterback. And I think him missing his 2 favorite pieces means that he's going to have a little bit of a later release. Maybe the timing isn't going to be all together that in that game. He got sacked 4 times against the San Francisco 49ers this last game. Now the 49ers have a way better defensive line than we do, but I think, again, that kind of shows we're playing at home. It's going to be a little bit of an outdoor game for him. And he's always played pretty well in Chicago. I won't say that he's going to play poorly, but I think we get the 3 sacks for sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree, man. I'm going bear down this one. I think Matthew Stafford realizes when the pressure gets to him and he kind of just covers up the ball so he doesn't get a fumble. He does that a lot. I've seen that with Stafford. He just doesn't want to get hurt, doesn't want to get fumbled. I do see the Bears getting 3 sacks in him. I don't know if it'd be 5 sacks, but I do see 3. I do see 3 sacks by the Bears defense.
Okay. Yeah, wonderful. Yep. All right, third one out of 4 here. Yeah. So, Tyler, bear down or bear frown on Rome Odunze getting 8 or more catches. So, he has yet to hit 8 catches this season. Do you think he hits 8 catches this game?
I'm going to go bear frown on this one. I don't think he's going to have 8 catches. I also don't think he's only going to have 2 catches. I think he'll get about 6 or 7 catches. Okay. I don't think he's going to have 8. I would love for him to get 8, but I don't think he's going to have 8. I just think that especially if Keenan Allen potentially returns, there will be a little bit more of the love that gets spread around the field. With Cole Kmet out there, I just don't see him gain 8. But if he does get 8, I will be astonished. How about you, man?
Oh yeah, I think I'm going bear frown on this. Obviously, I think he, since he hasn't hit 8 catches yet this year, it's a bit crazy. I think he's getting the target share that he needs to get 8 catches. Keenan is likely to come back. I think the defense is definitely going to be pressuring the wide receivers a little bit more this game. But I think if there's anyone I'm going to bet on 8 or more catches, it's going to be DJ Moore, and that's I think is a pretty easy one.
Yeah, I agree. All right, the last one, man. I think this is a big one. Obviously, knowing if the Bears potentially will beat the Rams next Sunday, the Bears will win by a touchdown or more. What do you got here, Dan?
I'm going bear down. So obviously last week we talked about how we think the Bears are going to beat the Colts, and we think that was going to be a closer game, but we still think it's going to be a touchdown difference. I think this is the game that actually comes out that way, right? Where we could substitute the idea of who's playing and who's not playing. But I think the idea is that Caleb Williams leads the Bears to a touchdown difference in the win against Los Angeles at home. Yeah, I think that
I agree.
happens.
I'm gonna go bear down on this one too, man, because I just think Caleb kind of is reading. I don't know if he's reading, Twitter and social media, kind of what happened with Jaden Daniels and stuff like that. I think he's getting kind of fired up. I think the Bears should have won that game. The Bears should have won in week 2 if the offense could have, clicked a little bit. I'm not saying they should be 3-0, but like if the things went the way of the Bears offense, they could have be 3-0 right now. I do think the Bears could win by a touchdown or more. I think the Niners just fell apart against the Rams, and that's why they lost. I just don't think the Rams, they did, I'm not taking away from what Stafford did in the offense, with some of those receivers like Tutu Atwell and like I forgot a few other ones, but I do think that the Bears are a little upset right now that they should have potentially had 2 wins, but against the Texans, especially the Colts. Like that was it was in the bag for the Bears to potentially win. I know it did become a 2 touchdown game toward the end with the Colts, but I do think this is a game where the Bears can win by a touchdown or more. And finally, these, people on all these different sports shows are kind of give Caleb a little bit of a break, give him a break and be like, okay, he actually, did something against the Rams and Matthew Stafford against Sean McVay. So I'm going to go bear down. They're going to win by a touchdown or more. I'm not saying it's going to be a 20-point win, but I do think it could be a 7-point win.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I'd like to, let's think of what do you think the final score is going to be?
Ooh, this is a good one, man. Just the way the Bears offense has kind of been going recently, I don't think it's going to be super high scoring, but I also don't think it's going to be super low scoring. If I took a wild guess on what score it'd be, I'm going to say the final score of the game is going to be, this is a hard one. I think I'm going to go 24-17. I'm going to go 24-17. I think it's going to be a few touchdowns for the Bears. I think maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns, Caleb Williams, 1 rushing touchdown, and a field goal. That's what I think the Bears are going to do. And then they're going to hold the Rams to only a few touchdowns. How about you, man?
Yeah, honestly, to keep the idea of us winning by a touchdown, I'm going to say 20-13. But I do think the game ends 20-17. I think the Bears win. The defense stops Matthew Stafford on a fourth quarter drive. I think that's kind of how the game's going to end here. I think Caleb gets the 2 touchdowns, either 1 rushing, 1 passing, and then Kyle Santos gets the field goals there. So I do think it ends 20-17. I think it's a closer game, but we score a little bit more. Do we hit the highest scoring total over 24 as we did week 1? But I would love to. I'd love to score over 24.
Yeah, I love doing this segment, man. I like kind of talking about what we kind of think what's going to happen in the games and stuff. And we won 2 for 4 last week, so let's try to let's keep the positive record. 50%'s kind of passing.
It's positive. Yeah.
All right, cool, man. So the last thing, just to kind of wrap everything up real quick, let's just kind of talk about the next 3 games for the Bears and what they have to go up against. So obviously we just previewed for the last 15-20 minutes. The Bears are going up against Sunday at Soldier Field at noon against the Rams. No Cooper Kupp, no Puka I can't talk. No Puka Nacua, but we did see what the Rams did against the Niners, even without their 2 top wide receivers out. So it is a big game for the Bears to beat the Rams on their own field, especially after that close game against the Titans in week 1. Week 2, and then the week afterwards. Well, this is obviously we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
How we have a 3 quote unquote easy game stretch for the Bears. We're playing the Panthers at home, and this is Andy Dalton's kind of comeback party to Chicago, since he was a Chicago Bear, and now he is officially the starting quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. He did get named the starting quarterback from here on out. If he keeps winning, he's going to be the starting quarterback. So let's not count them out by no means.
They played well. It's hard to say it, but the Panthers played well.
They did.
I think with Dalton starting, there's no hurt for Chicago. I think it's kind of there's less pressure because it's not Bryce Young that we're so worried about, the player that we kind of let them survive on. But I'd still love to get this win. I think that's a game that I definitely know the Bears defense is going to be sitting there saying, hey, we got a bone to pick with these guys. Let's kind of go for it. And I think the offensive line also has to kind of be a little bit more punishing that game as well.
Yeah.
The last game stretch.
Yeah, in 3 weeks. So the last game, this is going to be a fun one. I wish I was going to this. I was potentially going to travel out there and go to it. I thought it'd be a once in a lifetime experience. Maybe in a few years once I make some more money. But the Jags, we're taking on the Jags in London at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, which is going to be a cool experience for the Bears. We're taking on the Jags. The Jags are not looking good whatsoever. The offense cannot click. Trevor Lawrence is 0-3 to start the season. But like I said, this is the Chicago Bears. Let's not count out any other teams. We have to pretend that the team is better than us, and we got to win these games. Especially with the Rams without Cooper Kupp and Nakua, the Panthers with Andy Dalton, even though the Panthers just got their first win, and the Jags, not having. So it's an important 3-game stretch for the Bears that we at least get a few wins out of this. It's very important for the Bears, and
very important game. I think playing in London is going to be nice too, because I think it's a little bit less pressure to be like, okay, are we playing at home? Are we playing away? We're playing strictly away for both teams, which is always a little bit different. I remember the last time we played in London, right? We lost to a Derek Carr game-winning drive. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember
the Khalil Mack revenge game when the Bears played the Raiders back in London. We lost to a game-winning drive for Derek Carr, which sucked because we led the entire game. So let's make sure that doesn't happen again. I do think after these next 3 games, I'd like to say the Bears finish 3-2. I think we get at least 2 wins here. I'd like to see a win against the Panthers and Jags for sure. But I do think the Bears kind of have a good next 3-game stretch, and I think we get back to the win column here.
Yeah. I agree, man. It's these next 3 games. We need a few wins out of these. We do. It'll get the Bears momentum going because the second half of the season for the Bears is it's a tough schedule. We need to get a few more wins. We got to get in the positive category, and it's huge, especially against the Rams without 2 of the receivers on Sunday. Let's try to get a win. So
definitely, let's do it.
Cool. All right, man. Always a pleasure, discussing Bear Down and, Bear Down, Bear Frown, everything to go in with the Bears, especially, when they don't win, when they win, I love to discuss, everything about that. And it's great kind of, talking about, what's going on with the Bears and especially, with the finally getting the passing game going, which is awesome. This is what I want for the Bears. And let's just keep the game going with them.
Oh, for sure. I think there's a lot of momentum going, so I'm excited for this week. I think it's another good matchup for the Bears. Another 1-2 team coming in there, so 2 teams that it's going to be a dogfight. I think it's 2 teams that are definitely going to try to win this game. But best of luck to the Bears, and thank you, Matt Eberflus, for listening in. I don't think he did, but I just want to say thank you anyway, because there was a weird moment where I felt he was, and I felt he is listening to us. So if you picked up anything, Matt, we'll make sure to thank you when we see them during the Bears game. So
yeah, if you want to be a guest on our show too, you can just let us know.
Let us know, Matt.
Yeah. All right, guys, we appreciate you guys always watching and listening to D&T and the 773. We'll be back every week during the Bears game, recapping all the weeks, previewing into the next week, and then when the different sports kind of kick back up with the Bulls, we'll think about the Blackhawks as well. We'll kind of get into that. We love talking about all the different Chicago sports going on. It's fun for us. We'd love to discuss. So you guys can always leave a comment. You can always whatever you guys are thinking. We love the comments today. Talking about our offensive line is trash and stuff like that. We love kind of dissecting a little bit. So thanks again, guys. Appreciate it. And then as always, especially on Sunday at noon at Soldier Field, got to bear down.
Bear down. Thanks everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thanks guys. Appreciate it.